All right, welcome back to another episode of Bosco Talks. We have a very special episode today. We have the great Glenn Kozlowski who agreed to join us. Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Well, you got to take out great. So just
I
say
don't know
Glenn.
about that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's 40 years ago, for crying out loud. It was so long ago. So who cares?
It was long ago, but to the BYU fans, that the 80s in general was just a really fun time for football fans, even going back and all the exciting games that we had, but especially that we have the one up that we have a national championship and Utah doesn't. I think that
Yep.
might be the the
That
cherry on
always
top for the
happens. I
BYU.
always throw it out there. I go, well, did you guys win a national championship? They go, well, we should have. I said, well, you didn't, did you? So there you go.
That's the thing too. Everyone always talks about 84 and well, you played Michigan in the bowl game. I'm like, hey, all of the guys on the 84 team would have gladly played Oklahoma,
Anyone.
Washington, anyone. I think
We'd
that
have
was
played them in a parking lot, for crying out loud.
exactly. That was
You want
I
to go to the Albertsons? Let's play there. We'll just draw out a field and we'll go.
yep. That was the mentality for you guys, I think, and what made 84 so special is everyone had the same mentality of it doesn't matter who's in front of us. We think that we're better.
Yeah, and we
And you
really
guys
had a
were.
big chip on our shoulder, and we were just trying to prove to everyone we were really good. And we had a great team, honestly.
Yeah.
We really did. You look at all the players that played in the NFL, we were really good.
There was plenty that got drafted that 84 year and even the year after 85,
85, yeah,
which
so 80, 83, 80, oh, actually 84, 85.
right. All right. So for the episode today, Glenn, we're going to go over a few things. We'll talk first. I like to do what I've been doing with my dad is kind of a playbook breakdown. And so we'll talk to you a little bit about the mindset of a wide receiver, what you're thinking about when you're lining up, what defenders you're looking at, things like that. We'll kind of go through your BYU days. I'll ask you some questions, and then we've got some fun questions at the end that we'll ask. So
You
we'll
see
start out with,
this one picture up there on
I
the
love
wall?
it.
Yeah,
That's
your
amazing.
dad was going to win the Heisman before I ever did. That was 85. But I go, BYU goes, we'll throw you a bone too. And I go, okay, thanks.
That is awesome. Well, I think it is interesting because my dad took third both years, 84 and 85. And who he lost to, I think 84 was Bo Jackson, which
Yeah, makes sense. Right.
makes sense. And
Yeah, I
then
got you.
85 was the Boston College quarterback who threw the Hail Mary. I think that I can't
Was
remember
that,
what his
I
name
think that might have been 84 because that
was.
was
That
just,
84? That could have been
yeah, I think
84.
so. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
But it's super fun. All right, so Glenn, as a receiver, you came into BYU as a freshman, started as a freshman. What was it like picking up the playbook for BYU? Was it a pretty simple playbook? Was a lot of it kind of your intuition when you lined up? What was that like learning the playbook?
Well, I came in early. I was the first guy to graduate early. And when I say that, what I mean by that is my principal said, you have 5 credit hours. Short, but I'm going to send you to BYU because you're such a hellion. Just get out of here. So they said, please go. We'll give you the credit hours. So that's really, so I was the first guy to come in as, in the spring ball before I graduated, even though I supposedly graduated. I really didn't, but I did because they just said, get lost. So that's how I ended up. So I spent the spring ball there with McMahon and everyone else. And so I learned the offense then. And then in the summer, I already knew I was going to start because I was better than all the other stiffs there. When I say that, I mean that in the most loving way.
Of course. Of course.
Dan Plater was there. And I'll tell you the greatest story ever. I sat in Dan's seat. It was on the couch, and McMahon was sitting there. And I sat there my first day when I walked in. And Plater goes, hey, you're sitting in my seat. And I go, no, I'm not. He goes, yeah, you are. I go, no, I'm not. I go, this is my seat now. I go, you sit over there. And he goes, but it's in my seat. And I go, what are you going to do about it? And McMahon goes, what are you going to do, Dan? He goes, I guess I'm going to sit in that seat. So that's how it went.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
I
that's a
was an
great.
idiot, for sure.
But hey, that's like honestly, that's the mentality that a lot of I'm not in the high school game. You've coached in the high school field. That's rare to have someone that just has that mentality, and the kids that do, those are the kids that really succeed because a lot of you might not be the most athletic. You might not have known all the plays 100%, but you were going to give 110% every play and you thought you were the best. And those things often outweigh the skill.
Right. Well, I will tell you this. I was the most skilled player that ever played at BYU. And that's what your dad should say too, because he was really skilled as well.
Yeah.
But I knew going in, because I was recruited by everyone. And I wanted to go to BYU because of Jim McMahon. And that's why I went there. And I said, I'm going to start. Otherwise, I'm not coming. And so
Yeah.
that's why I went there ultimately. And I know your dad went there because there was a lot of other reasons, but best decision he ever made and best decision he made because it helped us all win.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how it all comes together.
Right.
Uh, all these little things where, yeah, I've heard his story a lot. So we'll talk more about your story.
Okay.
We'll talk when you're lining up for a route. You have a play gets called. You have a specific route. What was it like the further you got in maybe the 84, 85, 83, 84? You got hurt the 85 season, but what was it like? Did they allow you to kind of change routes at all? You had enough.
Always changed my route. And your poor dad hurt his arm because I was supposed to run a curl in that kickoff classic in 85 and I ran a streak, and then I was supposed to run a slant and I ran a streak because I'm going, this guy sucks and I could beat him. I'm just going to go by him and throw it to me, Robbie. And eventually your dad figured out, okay, he's just going to run by this guy, just got to chuck it down to him. And Norm used to call us on the red phone. We used to call it the red phone because it really was a red phone on the sideline after we scored. And it would be, I knew I had to answer first because Norm's going to say, make sure you said that was a called play. And then Robbie had to get on, your dad had to get on and go, yeah, it was a called play. And that's how we always did it. But I made it up all the time. And so your dad, unfortunately, always had to kind of figure out where is he going to be, but he always knew I was going to get to the open area and then he could throw it to me. So that's
Yeah,
how we did it.
that's that's really fun because honestly, that's you can kind of see that when you watch back film.
Yeah, because
My
your dad
dad
would get
used
the clutch all the time and then chuck it to me.
Yeah, but you guys knew kind of where you were going to be. And I was watching one clip, I think it was against Utah, where you were wide open in the end zone. Who knows if that was even the play, but it's like you knew that was the open spot. And my dad saw it the whole time too.
I was supposed to run a post, but they both went to the post. So I just ran a quarter. Your dad knew, just throw it to him. And I sat there because early in the year against Pittsburgh, I actually went too far and stepped out of bounds, and it cost us a touchdown. So I said, I'm going to sit down and hopefully you'll throw it to me because everybody fell down running on the post. So, yeah, we
But
did it all the time.
what what defender were you mostly looking at? Were you obviously the cornerback in front of you, but were you also noticing where the safeties were, and would that kind of dictate where you were going to run, or was it more once the play started that you kind of found the open spot?
We always had to first and foremost make sure that we didn't have a blitz coming on our side. So if there was more guys than we could block, because we always knew where the call was. So if I was on the right side, and the right side was the strong side, if they brought four guys, then we could pick it up. But if it was on the weak side, we couldn't. So I had to side adjust. So you started with that first. So you run and read who blitzed, and then if they didn't blitz, then you ran your route. And as I ran my route, I would always look at what the corner was doing, if it was man or zone, and then I would adjust my route
Yeah.
accordingly. So, and your dad understood that I would do that, and then he would just find, he just knew that I'd be in the open area, and I was kind of the bailout guy for him at times because, if it was on the weak side, he knew I was going to find the open area and he could throw it to me if it
Yeah.
wasn't open on the strong side.
He knew he could come back to you. Well, and
Yeah,
you guys had in that 84 year, you guys had a tremendous group. Obviously, David Mills, you, Mark Bellini, and you all had really good hands, both of the backs. Hey
Well, I
Mooley,
didn't.
Kelly Smith.
Delaney did. Dave did. I just got open. Honestly, I'll be honest. I mean, there was a couple of times your dad threw perfect dimes, and I would drop it, and I'd go, "I'll get it on the next play. Trust me, Rob." And he'd be like, "You better. I'm not going to throw it to you again."
But you knew he'd keep throwing it to you.
Of course he did, because we wanted to win. We didn't care about who was the star. We all just wanted to win. That was the
Yeah.
most important thing.
I was looking back at kind of the game logs from '84, and it really was every game was someone new. One game
Right.
you'd have 10 catches, the next David would have 10, Mark had 8 or
Yeah,
9, and
because they
then
were
Kelly Smith.
triple covering me when they got open. So no, when I say I'm joking, of course, but no, I mean, from the time I got to BYU after my freshman year, I always had double coverage, and that was kind of what happened, and I understood it, and
Yeah.
I knew that I could draw defenders away from where we were trying to go. So I always ran my routes hard and tried to make sure that it looked like I was going to be the primary receiver. And
Right.
then when it broke down, I'd just find the open area, and your father would find me and throw it to me.
Do you guys have rules when like a play would break down? Would you kind of just go find the open spot, or if it was, hey, if I'm running this route, this is what I need to do if kind of my dad like rolls out and the play's broken?
Well, your dad will tell you that I always thought I was open, always, even though it might have been doubled or tripled covered. I was always open. Just throw it to me. I'll catch it. That's what I used to tell him. Just throw it up. I got it. But we would break down. We knew where we were supposed to go, but I'd always find the open hole and just sit down because I knew your dad would look back and go, okay, there he is. I'll just throw it to him.
He is open.
Yep. Well, I mean, I would find the open hole.
Yeah.
A lot of times they played a lot of zone back in those days. So
Yeah.
a lot
That's
different
awesome.
than
Okay, let's get a little bit into we kind of talked about recruiting. You talked about kind of you could have gone anywhere. You chose BYU because of Jim McMahon. Was there any other schools that you were seriously thinking about because of maybe the quarterback play, or was it kind of always BYU loves throwing the ball? I know
well,
I can get in there and play.
honestly, I would have gone to Colorado, but my mom, who's a little Polynesian lady, bless her heart, she's passed, and I love her dearly, but she said you're going to BYU. So I didn't have a choice. I had to go there. But I kind of hung on hope, and everybody was cheating back then. So I got a lot of money while I was on recruiting trips because everybody's, and I hate to say this now because maybe they'll strip us. Well, actually, I was in high school, so it doesn't matter. But I got paid a little bit of cash. So, and
And now
I
all these guys are making tons of money.
yeah, I know it was so funny because I gave my mom, I got like $1,000 or something from USC, and I gave it to my mom, and she punched me in my face, and then grabbed the money, and we went up to John Robinson, was the head coach then. We drove to his office, and she threw the money at him, and said, "Never call us again because you can't buy my son." I'm thinking, what do you mean, Mom? Anybody could buy me. What are you talking about? And the only group that didn't offer me money, you know who it was, right?
BYU.
BYU. Yep, 100%. Always
Well,
did it.
yeah, going off of that, what was your who were the coaches that recruited you, and what was your first impressions on Lavelle?
Well, I love Lavelle. He was honest, and I went in there at the end, and I said, "Okay, what's the deal?" He goes, "Well, the deal is you get to play, and we're going to give you a scholarship, and you just work hard, and you might have a great career, after you graduate." And I go,
Right.
"Oh, that sounds interesting. You're not giving me any money?" He goes, "No, we're not going to give you any money." I go, "Okay, cool. I'm in." Of course, I didn't have a choice because my mom would have beaten me if I didn't choose BYU anyway. And I'm
Your
glad
mom
your
knew
dad
best.
chose it too. I'm glad your dad chose that too as well.
It's interesting because my dad had siblings that were at BYU, but he was considering. I think
Yeah, he
San
had a
Diego
couple of
State was
options.
another one that threw the ball a lot, but I think
Yeah,
the
because Doug Scoville had
yeah,
left BYU
yep,
and went to San Diego State, and Doug or Ted Tollner was at BYU. So it was so strange because on my junior, and I'm sure your dad told you the same story. Ted Tollner showed up from San Diego State, and Doug Scoville came to my school from BYU, and I'm going, and then they switch, and I go, well, okay, whatever.
that works.
Yeah. But like I said, and I'm really grateful I went to BYU. It worked out really well for me, and it was just the right place for me to grow and mature and everything else. So,
Yeah. Well, and you got to play with three of maybe the greatest quarterbacks that have
well,
played
I
at
think the
BYU.
three greatest quarterbacks ever at BYU, in my opinion. Other
Yeah.
guys can claim other things, but I got to play with the three best, in my opinion. So,
What was the difference? Obviously, you had 1 year with Jim, 1 year with Steve, and then the 2 years
two
with my
with your
dad.
dad.
What what would you say was the difference between the three if you could go through that?
Well, I would say Jim really understood football. He would audible all the time. So it was really difficult for me as my freshman year started because I had to figure out all the checkoffs and everything else. And so I had this wristband where I wrote all the different numbers on the place or the routes I should run in my position. And then with Steve ran a lot. He wasn't he's a Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong. Steve Young, he's in the NFL Hall of Fame, but in college, he ran all the time. And half the time, we wanted him to get hit because we wanted your dad to come in and throw the ball. As wide receivers, we're selfish. So, but yeah, Steve was really good too. But your dad was probably the guy that would stay in the pocket, read, and then throw the ball. And really, the real reason, I mean, I truly believe we were all destined to be there at that time and work
Yeah.
together and make it work. And it really turned out well for us and turned out well for the church too. If you're LDS, you get what I'm talking about, right? We
Yeah.
won a championship.
Yeah, that's great. Um, I know my dad loved playing with you, so it
Oh, he
is
was the best, and he still is the best in my opinion. So,
he's the best. So
and
there's
he
some
got
fun.
hurt, with his shoulder. Otherwise, I'm telling you, he would have had a huge career in the NFL. But honestly, it worked out exactly how it should have, because your dad
Did.
belonged in Provo, and you guys needed to be raised there because, quite frankly, it was just a different atmosphere and a great place for you guys.
Yeah,
Your
no, it
dad was
was.
most comfortable there too.
Yeah, it was perfect. He was done after kind of two
Yeah,
years,
3 years. Well, I think
two
it was
three
three
years.
total.
He coached at Idaho State for a year, and then he went as a graduate assistant under
Yeah,
Lavelle.
GA, and then Lavelle promoted him
Yeah,
immediately, and he should have. I mean, honestly, your dad was. I mean, we won a national championship because he was there. I mean that sincerely.
yeah. Well, and
No
it's
other quarterback could have done that at that time, I
yeah.
believe.
Well, it's interesting too for from your perspective. Kind of that '83 year was a fantastic year. I think
Well,
the
they
only
said
loss was early in the year to Georgia.
we lost to Baylor that year.
Baylor. That's right,
Opening game,
Baylor.
we lost 54, like 56 or something. They had the ball last and they scored. So
Yeah.
that's how they beat us.
So, other than that, it's back-to-back undefeated years. You guys won the 28 straight games, but after having Steve there, my dad had been there for 2 years. He knew the offense. You knew him. You guys roomed for 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. I ran him out after 3 days because I was out of control. And I love him for that because he was the only guy that said, "You're nuts. I'm out of here." And he just left. He goes, "I can't deal with you, man. You're crazy." And I go,
Uh,
"I'm sorry."
but what was your mindset kind of going into '84? Obviously, everyone kind of had trust in each other, but it was a lot of unknown from obviously the QB standpoint. The defense we knew was going to be good. It was a lot of returning starters, even a lot on the offense, guys coming back.
Really on offense. I mean, I was the only wide receiver coming back
Okay.
that really started. We had a couple of running backs, but Kelly and Avi and Lake was still young. And
Yeah.
so we were still pretty young on offense. Our defense was much better from a standpoint of a lot of returning starters. We had Kyle Morrell and all those guys,
Yeah.
Leon, Kurt. So we knew our defense and we really knew they were good. We couldn't get a first down in spring ball. I mean, it was brutal. I'm screaming at your dad and everyone else, "Just throw me the ball. I'll get a first down for us." And your dad's like, "Okay, dude, just relax. And, I'll throw it to you eventually." But once we got to play people, we go, "Wow, our defense was that good." And now it's really easy.
Yeah.
So it kind of became really easier because we had a really good defense.
And I know my dad kind of struggled that first little bit in
Well, the
the
first pass
game.
he threw was in the stands
Yeah. I think the first pass he threw was that. The second one was that Mark's feet
to the
or
stands,
something.
and it was brutal. But
He
after
had a
that, he
couple.
settled down. And then, the thing about it, people don't realize your dad was one of the toughest guys I played with, even though you would never call him a tough guy,
Yeah,
honestly, because he'd tell you, I'm not, but he really was tough. He had a lot of injuries and he just played through it.
yeah. I like. I was watching some interviews with you from some past BYU things, and you've mentioned that where it's like once he stepped on the field, he was stone cold. Like
Oh, he was a
he was
killer.
that mentality.
Yep, 100%. And, what was kind of cool about it, he was so quiet, in control always, didn't want to cause any trouble. He was like the perfect citizen. And then we had a bunch of idiots like me and Kyle Morrell and all the other guys. And there's your dad kind of going, guys, settle down. He was the only non LDS guy on the field at the time. And we're like, well, what's wrong with you? I mean, there was more, but you know what I mean? It was so funny because here he is. He was exactly how you should have been, in everyday life,
Yeah,
on the field, he turned into a stone cold killer. I mean, he just wanted to beat you and he'd do anything he could. He took a shot in his ankle. We take shots all the time to play.
yeah.
That's what we did back then.
No, that's yeah. It was. And the whole team was like that in '84
Yeah,
for sure. Like
100%. Yep.
everyone was just they played through. I think that was another thing is there was probably some injuries where people sat out a game or two, but there was really no long-term injuries. Like you had the one in '85 where you
Well, I
were,
blew my knee out. Yeah, it was
yeah,
so.
you guys had started off so well too, and
That
you
might
were
have
off
been
to
the
a hot
best
start.
team. I mean, that might have been our best team in '85, defense and an offense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got hurt, and then your dad hurt his shoulder, and then the rest was, it just kind of got bad. Our defense was really good. They only
yeah,
gave up against Ohio State. They gave up 10 points, and your dad threw a pick because one of the guys bounced off his chest, and the guy caught it and returned it for a touchdown. In
yeah,
the Citrus Bowl, I think it was. So your dad was really good, but we just didn't have guys on offense that just understood how you got to make a play, you got to catch the ball, and you get hit, you take the hit, and you just get up, and hopefully you survive. That's it.
yeah. Well, talking about that too, I think in the '84 year, plays were just made. One example is the touchdown you scored in the bowl game against Michigan, where my dad, hey, who knows if he was trying to throw it out or not? We'll leave that up to you guys to debate. No, I'm just kidding.
I will say this: he was throwing it where I could catch it, and no one
Yep.
else. And he
If
knew
you
that. He
weren't
knew
catching
I'd
it, it
go.
was out. It was out.
It wasn't an accident. He threw it. If I caught it, then it was going to be a touchdown. If I
Yeah.
didn't, it was out of bounds. And that's what he did.
And that though, it's like that was one of those moments where you made the play, and that's why the '84 team was successful. The Hawaii game when Morrell jumps over and he just makes a play, and it seemed like every game that there was a close call.
Stepped up and made plays.
Yeah,
That's what made us so unique that year because we had a bunch of guys that just said, no more. We're going to win.
yeah,
And we all believed we were going to win. Every game, we believed we were going to win the game. And we knew
yeah,
that we got through Pittsburgh and then Baylor because Baylor had beaten us a year before in that
right,
54, 56, whatever it was. We just throttled them in
yeah,
game two. I mean, we just killed them from the jump. We just could do anything we want against them offensively, and our defense shut them down. The only time we had a struggle against Wyoming, and
yep,
it was weird because our defense kind of lost their way in that game, and then we had to step it up. And I had a
yeah,
concussion. I don't remember half the things I did in that game, but it was kind of funny because we all made plays in that game, and nobody
yeah.
kind of remembers,
Well,
or at
my
least
dad talks. Yeah, my dad talks about there was a fourth down play when you guys had to go down and score, and he says you go out for a pass and you kind of
I
were
sat
behind.
down because I was kind of, I was goofy. And then he waved to me, and I go, and I just took off, and he threw it to me, and we got the first down, and we ended up, Dave caught the touchdown the next play.
Yep,
It was
yep.
perfect.
You guys made the plays, but my dad always laughs about that one. He's because again nowadays if if you were to play and that happened, you'd be out. You'd
I'm
be
out.
in
Yeah.
concussion protocol. You wouldn't be playing. And in the 80s, it was kind of like, can you
Yeah.
walk? Can you run? Sure, get out there and let's
Well,
play.
yeah, what was so funny is because I came to the sideline, I didn't say anything to anybody, but I didn't remember what was going on, and it kind of just kept getting worse and worse as the game went along. But I do remember the play because he waved at me. He goes, and I go, "Oh, I just ran over there," and then he threw it to me. We got the first down, and the rest is history.
It's great. And the other thing I got to ask you about is the finger guns. Did that start in high school? Did that start in college? Where did you get the finger guns? When did you throw it out there? How did that all come to be?
Um, You know what? I always thought I was the best player on the field always. And even if I wasn't, I believed I was. So you
Yeah.
go out there, if you believe, you have a chance to actually prove you are. So, when I would get first downs or whatever, I would do the first down marker. I was the idiot that did all that. The only time that Lavelle ever got mad at me, I want to say it was my freshman year. I think we were playing Colorado, and I ran a streak on a guy, and the guy thought I was going to run a comeback, and I kind of stepped and I went by him. And when I caught the ball, I held the ball back, and he was chasing me. And it's the only time I ever heard Lavelle swear. And he swore at me, "You ever do that again?" He had a little blank blank, and he goes, "You
Yeah.
ever do that again, you'll never play here again." I go, "Sorry, coach, I didn't mean to do that." So, I was always I loved just kind of I loved being the guy that people hated. So
Yeah.
when we went on the road, I wanted to antagonize everyone so they would get off their game because I
Yeah.
wanted to win so bad. If I knock you off tilt, you have a chance to win. You're worried about me, want to hit me instead of playing your position, and then
Yeah.
that's what I did.
You're
I
the
just
you're the perfect
win
teammate.
more than I wanted to lose. That's all.
You're the perfect teammate. You're the guy that everyone wants on their team that doesn't want to play
But
against.
everybody else hates you. Even in the NFL, it was so funny because all the guys that I played with, they'd call me and they go, "Kaz, you did really good, but nobody likes you on our team." I go, "I get it, and I don't care. That's how it works. I don't care. I wanted to
Oh,
win more than I cared about being liked."
yeah.
So
All right,
that's really
let's
where it came from.
yeah.
But you get
Let's
arrested now, by the way, shooting guns. I might
I know
add.
you can't do any of that. They used
You
to
can't
do the
do
bow and arrow
anything.
one.
Yeah,
Can't do any
nothing.
of that anymore. Um, let's talk a little bit about some life lessons that you've learned and you've taken with you. So, one of the big ones I want to talk to you about is kind of overcoming injuries because in the moment, I'm sure you're thinking, this is my life and it's what am I going to do? This is the hardest thing, maybe not the hardest thing you've ever gone through. I don't know what your mindset was. I tore my ACL going into my senior year of playing basketball in high school, and that
And
was
you were
kind
a
of my
stud, my
thought.
dad, because your dad used to brag about you all the time. Believe me, I heard it all the time. And all of your brothers and sisters were great athletes, just so you
Yeah,
know. But he really would brag about you, and you would light it up too. So kind of cool.
it was fun, but it's injuries are obviously part of the game. They're really hard to overcome in the moments because that's life. Your life is
Right,
kind of
right.
sports. And at that time, you were a senior, so you had probably, like you had talked about, matured a little more. BYU had kind of, Lavelle was there. What was that like, though, going through that, overcoming it, and still, going to the NFL and being able to have a good career?
Was I blew it out. And the first one I tore my ACL, and then I came back and played because I got a letter from this little boy from Centerville that had this disease where he couldn't do anything. And he used to cheer for me. He could say "Ka," not "cause," but "Ka" and number 7. And so I said, because I was depressed. I'm like, my career is over. I can't do anything. What am I going to do, dear? I got to graduate now. I don't want to graduate. I hate school. I'm dyslexic. So, honestly, it was really difficult for me. And your dad used to make fun of me when I'd read in class. I'd say organization. I just couldn't read really well. And so he mocked me all the time. And he should be ashamed of that, I might add. But anyway, so, you know, um, that letter changed how I viewed everything. And so I said, you know what? This kid may never walk, may never do anything again, or, be able to do the things I can. I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I got my whole life ahead of me. So, I dedicated myself to coming back. I got hurt again and blew out everything in my knee. And back then, nobody came back from that injury. So it took me 2 years, literally, to get back. And I wasn't the same receiver I was in college, but I was good enough and tough enough to make a career out of it. And I made I said, hey, listen, I got 4 sons. I'm going to make sure that I do this because this was my dream. This is what I dreamed about when I was 8 years old. And I had a lot of faith in my Heavenly Father. I don't want to get religious here or whatever, but I did. And I just believed in him. And I said, look, I can do this. And it worked out well for me. I created a career. And then after that, all the opportunities opened up after I did that. But it really was about just, that was my dream and I was going to do it no matter what.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I was reading another article where you were talking about your sons, where you talked about, I don't care if my sons ever play football, but I want them to go to BYU because of the lessons I learned there and that. And I think that's a big part. You and my dad are similar in that, because I was never pressured to play football. And,
I'm glad
when
he
you
didn't
have,
push you to do it either because it's
no,
stupid. By the way, I just might add, it's kind of dumb. My
honestly,
grandsons, I don't want them playing at all. I move them towards golf because that's
yeah,
a super game. And, it's hard to do. It's actually
yeah,
harder than football. But if you're good at it, you could be really good
it
at
can
it.
be really good. But
You can do
it's,
it for your life.
yeah, no, seriously. It's nice to have that mindset though, because I know I grew up with a lot of people too where,
Yeah, everybody
their
wanted
dads
you to
really
be
wanted them to
dad.
succeed
Yeah.
and go play in college and do all these things that maybe they didn't get to do. And so it's it's nice to have kind of that where it's like you had an NFL career. You could have pushed your sons to do that and they may have been able to do it, but that's not what it was about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was my way to get to success in my life. And it did open up a lot of doors. But
Yeah.
I knew my sons could use their brain instead of their body. And you're doing that too. And you get to use that. And that's much more important because you could do it for the lifetime.
Yeah.
For me, I'm starting to lose my mind again. So, I mean, it happens as you get older. I forget things. And, you're like, did I wake up today? Yeah, I did. It's kind of funny how it works. But, honestly, I didn't want him to have to go through that pain that I did because it was really painful. I mean, most people don't know. I ran the old stairs at BYU. It was 1,083 steps up that hill.
Yep.
Now they break it down in different levels, but back then
Hmm.
it was just a straight step up. How do I know
Yeah.
that? I ran every day except for Sunday, 4:30 in the morning until I
Yeah.
puked, and then I'd go home. That's what I did. And
Yeah.
people would say, well, what'd you do? Well, you got to sacrifice to get anything in life. And that was my sacrifice there. And I
Yeah.
tried to pretend like I didn't work hard. And I was kind of one of those idiots. Oh, I don't work out, but I was working harder than everyone else. I just never told them.
Yeah. You did it in silence.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good lesson too for the kids that you've coached in high school. So I wanted to ask you, what types of things did you learn from Lavelle that you took when you were coaching those kids? Because I know you went to a lot of programs that were not doing necessarily very good, and
Yes.
yeah, and you helped raise kind of the bar for them and help them even just get to college or graduate, different things like that.
Yeah, I cared more about my kids than I did about winning or losing. Because to me, football was teaching you how to be successful in life. So you
Yeah.
do these principles and you apply it to everything you do, and then you have success. So when I was working with the kids, and a lot of times I'd get frustrated, but what I would always demand from them is that, you know what, stay the course, um, get educated. And so the biggest thing I did in applied areas, I'd get their reading up to speed because most kids, when they go through the system, they just push them along.
Yeah.
And so I would work on reading. If you can't read, you can't understand what you can't do anything. If you can't understand what you're reading or if you're reading, you don't understand what it is, you're going to fail at everything. So I focused on reading. I focused on doing the right things. I mean, I can remember at times I had one kid that I didn't play other than 2 quarters his senior year. And, honestly, he had 5 kids in 4 years. Think about that. As a senior in high school, I know it makes you just go, what the heck? But that was pretty normal where I was at. And so I really demanded he did everything right. And now he has all 5 of his kids. They're all really successful. He's doing well. He joined the military. It wasn't that he was successful in high school, but he went on and did things because he understood the basic principles of success.
Yeah.
Loving those you love, trust people that love you, work hard, do the right thing, all the little details that we are missing right now, I think, across the board. It's just, listen, it's pretty simple. Teach people to choose right and wrong. If you choose right more than wrong, you're going to be okay. And that's really what I taught the kids. My rules were CTR, choose the right. And so, it was so funny because I'd move into a new program. I say, okay, CTR, and the freshmen would come in after 2 years. What is CTR, coach? And all the seniors would go, it means choose the right. What are you talking about? They get mad at them and try to explain to them, it's just choose the right. And what it did is it allowed me to treat each kid individually so that everybody has different circumstances. So I got to be able, by choosing the right, I could give a little leeway sometimes to some kids that have really horrible circumstances. Then kids that had really good circumstances, I could hammer you a little bit because, quite frankly, what are you doing, you knucklehead? Come on, Get it right. So it really worked out. So CTR was my whole motto when I was coaching high school football. Choose the right. Pretty simple. Awesome. And Lavelle taught me that too. I mean, honestly, what I got out of Lavelle was, I guess it's getting a little hot here, huh? It's sounding a little loud on my end anyway.
That's good.
What he did teach me is, personal priesthood interviews. And I did that with all my kids, even though they didn't realize I was doing that.
Yeah.
Every week, I would spend time with each kid individually in my entire program and talk to them and help them set goals so they could be better in their lives. And that's what I wanted them to do. What I'm proud of is my last year at North Chicago, my last school, actually second to last school, all 18 kids graduated. All 18 got scholarships. 3 got athletic scholarships. 15 got academic scholarships. I mean, wow. That's what I'm proud of. They got academic scholarships because this is what matters more. Strongest muscle in your body is your brain.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest one
it's the hardest one to get going and fire. And your dad did a great job with you guys because you all are using your brains, and that's important.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Okay, I've got a few kind of what I'm calling fan Q&A. Yeah. So did you have any superstitions, whether that was the way you got ready for a game or the meals you ate? Did you have anything at BYU like that?
In '84, when we were on the road, Dave Mills was my roommate. I would jump on both bed until I broke one of them, and then we left on the road. And Lavelle said, it was funny because he goes, hey, guys, what's going on? I said, Coach, I just feel like I got to do this. And he goes, as long as you keep winning, okay. I mean, it was so funny. And I'm sure he wanted to kill me, but he kind of let me get away with that one. That was probably the only thing.
All right, number 2. You and my dad banter a lot, have ever since '84. But who talked the most trash? Since '81. Yeah. Who talked the most trash?
Your dad was one of those regal guys. And when I mean that sincerely, he just was above the fray. He would just go out and show you what he was going to do. I had to tell everyone what I was doing. And so your dad, I'll never forget, we had on '84, we had this big homecoming event. And so your dad grabs a mic and he goes, we're going to win. And everybody went crazy. And then he goes, and I'm going to do my best. And the fans are going crazy. We have the live, it's lit up on the hill. And I grab the mic. I'm like, give me the mic. I'm going to get everyone fired up. I said, when I look up at that Y and it's lit up. I get all fired up. Nobody said a word, not one cheer, and I just dropped the mic. I said, "You guys all suck," and I threw the mic down, and your dad just started laughing. So honestly, your dad always was above everything. Honestly, he just kind of was more regal than I. I just wanted to pop off to everyone.
Yeah.
So your dad wins on that one for sure.
All right. Do you have any funny Lavelle stories, or what's your favorite Lavelle story that you have from your time at BYU?
You know what? Lavelle was just so steady always. The one thing I always knew, if I wanted to get out of practice, I had to pick a fight. He'd throw me out. So I would pick fights all the time so I didn't have to practice because I hated practicing more than anyone else in the world. So I'd go, okay, who can I pick a fight with today so I could get tossed? And then eventually he figured it out and he goes, all right, he called me and he goes, listen, if you keep picking fights, I'm going to keep you on the field. I go, okay, coach, I won't do it anymore. So, I mean, but he would always just toss me and I'm going, oh, thank you. I get out of practice now. But yeah, Lavelle was just, he was really kind of a father figure for me, honestly. He taught me how to be a man. He taught me how to, you know, even treat my own sons as they grew up and how I could be a better father. So I'm grateful for that, honestly.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was a fantastic episode. Remember, everyone that's listening, to go subscribe, give it a review, go follow us on all the socials, and we'll see you next time. Go
You
Cougs.
got it, man. Thank you. Appreciate